I never expected to meet someone like her, especially in my small hometown. Life had always been predictable and unhurried until she came along. Her arrival coincided with her family's military relocation, which brought them overseas to this quiet corner of the world. Fate had a twisted sense of humor, intertwining our paths in ways we could never have imagined. As fate would have it, we crossed paths at a local cafe one sunny afternoon. She was sitting alone, sipping coffee and deep in thought. Intrigued by her beauty and the air of mystery that surrounded her, I plucked up the courage to strike up a conversation. "Is this seat taken?" I asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. Startled, she raised her head and met my eyes. A faint smile played on her lips as she replied, "No, please have a seat." We started talking, and there was an instant connection between us. Our conversations flowed easily and casually, as if we had known each other all our lives. She talked about her nomadic military upbringing, the places she had seen, and the people she had met along the way. I, in turn, told her about my mundane existence in this sleepy little town. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Our bond grew deeper and deeper, and before we knew it, we were inseparable. Our hearts danced to the rhythm of our newfound love. It was as if the universe conspired to bring us together despite the challenges ahead. One evening, as we strolled hand in hand through the park, she confessed her past relationship with a military man who was serving overseas. "He served in the same country as my family," she explained, a note of sadness in her voice. "But the distance eventually separated us." Listening to her carefully, I felt a prick of jealousy and uncertainty. Yet I couldn't deny my growing affection for her. Love has a funny way of blurring the lines between logic and emotion. "I'm glad you found your way to this town," I admitted, and there was sincerity in my voice. "Perhaps it's a sign that we're destined to be together." She smiled, a mixture of hope and uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Maybe it is," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the rustling of the leaves. Little did we realize that our journey together would be far from smooth. Dark secrets and buried emotions threatened to destroy the foundation we had built. But in that moment, standing under a moonlit sky, we pressed ourselves against each other, unaware of the storms that awaited us. And so, our unexpected meeting began a love story that would test the boundaries of trust, loyalty, and forgiveness. Our relationship blossomed. Time flew by like a whirlwind. With each passing day, our love grew deeper, and soon we decided to take a step towards each other and get married. In 2020, surrounded by our loved ones, we exchanged vows that bound us together as husband and wife. The joy we felt was immense. It was a blissful moment frozen in time. As the months went by, the euphoria of being newlyweds gradually turned into a comfortable routine. Our love was further strengthened when our son was born. The tiny lump of joy filled our lives with indescribable happiness, and we enjoyed the joys of parenthood. But beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect lives lurked secrets ready to shatter the illusion of bliss. Without knowing it, my wife carried a heavy burden, a secret that threatened to destroy our marital harmony. One evening as we sat in the living room, the weight of her secret became too much for her to bear. She mustered up the courage to share her truth, her voice trembling with guilt and vulnerability. "I need to tell you something," she said, looking me in the eye. A few months before we started dating, I found myself engaging in frank conversations with my ex-boyfriend. Shock coursed through my veins, freezing me in place. My mind was churning, trying to process the information I had received. How could this be? Was our love not enough? Questions swamped my thoughts, but I remained silent, encouraging her to continue. "I never cheated on you physically," she added hastily, desperation evident in her words. He was still living abroad at the time, but I know that doesn't excuse what I did. I've been carrying this guilt around for years. Anger rose up inside me, mixed with a deep sense of betrayal. However, the depth of my love for her fought the bitterness threatening to consume me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I finally managed to say it, resentment and confusion evident in my voice. Tears streamed down her face as she answered, "I didn't know how to tell you about it." I purposely left the messages untouched, hoping that one day I could show you that I wasn't hiding anything. But I understand if you can't forgive me. A silence hung in the room, the weight of her confession constricting the air around us. The foundation of trust we had built crumbled, leaving us standing on shaky ground. Our once idyllic marriage now faced the daunting task of rebuilding, scarred by the revelation of her secret. The days following my wife's confession were filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the murmur of our churning thoughts. The weight of her infidelity hung in the air, casting a shadow over our once vibrant relationship. With each passing moment, the depth of betrayal sunk deeper into my heart. Unable to shake off the nagging curiosity gnawing at my mind, I turned again and again to the source of our unrest: old texts between my wife and her ex-boyfriend. Armed with a mixture of horror and determination, I delved into the digital remnants of their past. As I scrolled through messages from December 2011, my eyes widened in disbelief. The frank content of their conversation hit me with harsh reality. The words imprinted themselves into my memory, each syllable a painful reminder of the betrayal I had discovered. At the time, he was still living abroad, thousands of miles away from me, and yet their virtual connection had broken the boundaries of fidelity. The realization that there had been no physical betrayal brought little comfort, for the emotional betrayal hurt just as deeply. The room became stuffy as I stood before my wife, my voice shaking with anger and anguish. "How could you?" I spat out, bitterness evident in my words. "You said they were just explicit messages, but this is unforgivable." Tears streamed down her face, mirroring my own pain. "I never meant to hurt you," she sobbed, her voice choked with regret. "I carried the guilt around all these years, but I didn't know how to get rid of it." I never deleted the messages, hoping that one day I could prove my honesty. The truth hung heavy between us, a tangible reminder of the cracks in our once unbreakable bond. Trust shattered, and the foundation of our marriage crumbled under the weight of her secret. The road to recovery seemed long and treacherous, with no guarantee of redemption. In the days that followed, we navigated the treacherous waters of our wounded relationship. Painful conversations filled with accusations, apologies, and desperate attempts to salvage the love we once held dear ensued. But the scars from the betrayal were deep, leaving us both scarred and unsure of the future. The air in our home remained heavy with tension as we struggled with the aftermath of the betrayal. Every day felt like a battle to salvage what was left of our shattered marriage. The wounds of the past continued to haunt us, leaving us vulnerable and unsure of the future. Confrontation became a constant companion as we dug deeper and deeper into the heart of our pain. Emotions ran high, fueled by anger, resentment, and a desperate need for answers. We questioned each other's intentions, retracing the steps that had brought us to this point of confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded, my voice shaking with frustration and sadness. "How could you keep such an important secret from me?" Her eyes glistened with tears as she tried to explain, and her voice was filled with remorse. "I didn't know how to reveal it. I was afraid of losing you, and I thought that by leaving the messages untouched, I would prove my honesty. But now I see the damage it did." Her words hung in the air, and we both didn't know how to bridge the chasm that had formed between us. The trust that had once been the pillar of our love now lay in ruins. The repercussions of her action echoed in our lives, leaving us struggling with the uncertainty of our future. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months as we navigated the consequences of broken trust. The road to forgiveness was treacherous, full of doubt and suffering. And yet, amidst the chaos, there was a flicker of hope, a tiny ember of the love we once shared. Slowly, we began to rebuild the pieces of our shattered marriage. Honest conversations became the foundation upon which we sought redemption. We met the pain face to face, recognizing past mistakes and seeking to move forward. Through tears and sincere apologies, we forged a new path built on the ashes of our past. This path was marred by setbacks and hardships, but the love that once blossomed between us was unwilling to fade. Over time, the wounds began to heal, leaving behind scars that told a story of resilience and growth. Our love, though forever changed, proved capable of withstanding the trials that threatened to consume us. Together we learned the true meaning of forgiveness and the power of redemption,